Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here. Welcome to this Mind webinar entitled Milan Innovation District Reboot Plan for Italy. I am, as many of you know, Tom Noad. I'm the president of the British Chamber of Commerce for Italy. It is a great pleasure to welcome to this webinar our moderator, Paule Ansoleaga Abascal. Good afternoon, Paule.
Good afternoon, Tom. Good afternoon, everyone.
And Paule's and our guest, Filippo Addarii. Good afternoon, Filippo.
Hi, Tom, and thank you, the British Chamber of Commerce, to have me for this.
It's a very great pleasure indeed. And before I hand over the session to Paule as moderator, I just want to say a few words about the British Chamber of Commerce for Italy's plans on sustainability. As many of you know, I've been talking about four things for about a year since I became president, the four overriding themes that we concentrate on, and they have been diversity and inclusion, sustainability, innovation, and Brexit. And they all come out of a sense of British values, a sense that we're here to do business, but we want to do business in a good way, business for good. So when we talk about sustainability, I don't think it can be much clearer than driving a message which is for a better future, a greener planet. That is something that is worthwhile and very good indeed. When I became president, I went around and talked to all of our members, as many of them as I possibly could. And the message that I got from them was that sustainability was a very important topic to them. Especially, of course, around the fact that this year, or was going to be this year, we were going to be holding the COP26, as many of you know. It was going to be co-chaired by the UK and Italy. So as the British Chamber of Commerce for Italy, we occupy a central place in that. However, due to the COVID crisis, it's been postponed until next year. Now, that's obviously a bad thing because we wanted to move ahead on that, but also it's a good thing because it gives us more time. You'll excuse me because my dog is in the background. It gives us more time. It gives us more time to, he's Zoom bombing us. It gives us more time to put our plans in place and figure out what we're going to be doing. And we're going to be doing a lot, as much as possible. Really, all of our members, or certainly a great quantity of our members, have come to us and said, we want to be part of this mission of sustainability. No longer can we rely on governments who've been talking for 30 years about making the planet a better place. It's up to businesses, it's up to us to lead the challenge, and that's why we're here. That's what we want to do. In terms of sustainability, we're not just a community of shared interest, we are a community of shared purpose. A community of shared purpose. So all I can say is it's very exciting for the future. We're going to be doing a lot on sustainability. We want you to be involved. With COVID, it gives us the chance to restart in a better way. So many opportunities. So obviously the Milan Innovation District has done a lot on that. We're going to be hearing from Filippo on that, and that's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do join us for more in the future, and I'll hand over to Paule. Paule.
Thank you very much, Tom, and thank you for spreading these much needed values. It is a pleasure to work with the British Chamber of Commerce for Italy. It is a pleasure to work with all our friends at BCCI, Inclusive Finance, and it is a pleasure to welcome Filippo Addarii today with us. I'm going to read out to you Filippo's bio because it's very interesting and I wouldn't like to miss any point. So Filippo is the founding partner and CEO of PlusValue Advisory, a London-based research and consulting group that provides bespoke social impact investment solutions to align private and public interests. Filippo is a serial entrepreneur and strategy advisor with 20 years experience, even though he looks very young, in leading on innovation projects combining sustainable development and social progress. With multi-stakeholder approach, including EU, UN, UK government, major corporations such as Lend-Lease and Intesa Bank Group, and philanthropic foundations such as the Gates Foundation. He is partner of the Urban Impact Fund, the first impact fund in Italy entirely dedicated to new holistic solutions for urban living, with a stark angle on innovation and technology. He was born in Bologna, graduated in philosophy, and he is now enrolled in professional PhD at the Institute of Finance and Technology at UCL. Filippo, thank you so much for your time. Thank you especially for sharing your pioneering ideas and projects with us today. I want to tell our friends that these 3 webinars we've done so far, there is a fil rouge to them. We are talking obviously about sustainability. I think on the first one we realized, okay, we can't see each other. Let's stay in touch. Let's do something. Let's meet virtually. We decided to speak broadly about the monetary and fiscal measures that were necessary or are necessary to avoid the depression, to get us out of this crisis. The second one, it was about how to use those resources strategically, how to build back better and build fair, inclusive, sustainable and innovation and collaboration driven economies that work for all. This one, which is the third, it is about real life concrete examples that are very, very important, because if we manage to demonstrate that they work, that they are feasible, we can enable the tipping point that leads to system transformation. So how did we get to developing all this? It's because, okay, you know, we were in the midst of a pandemic crisis. We were, you know, reflecting and assuming responsibility for, you know, what happened in the world. But most importantly, we were thinking about the future we want to build. And one thing is clear, we don't want to go back to normal, because normal, unfortunately, is the problem. Normal is a world with more than 700 million people who live in a condition of extreme poverty. A similar number are undernourished, or they don't have access to clean water. 1%, actually the 26 richest individuals own as much as the poorest 50%. And I could go on and on and on with ecological degradation, greenhouse gas emissions, which are raising our glaciers that are melting, our forests, and we saw the Amazon on fire. We are seeing what's going on in the US now with our Black brothers and sisters who have said enough is enough. We've been going through injustice and violence for like 400 years. So this is the normal we don't want to go back to. We know that sustainable development is the only way. And please allow me to repeat myself, because I really want to say that sustainability is not just about the environment. There are 4 pillars to sustainability, which is social, it's economic, it's environmental, of course, and it's also institutional. And these 4 pillars were already stated back in 1987 in the Brundtland report, Our Common Future. Sustainability challenges from, you know, poverty to inequalities to ecological degradation to climate change are by their very nature very large, very complex and intertwined. And because of that, in order to build a new normal different to this one, we need much more than government and central bank balance sheets. We need people like Filippo. We need visionaries. We need a vision. We need a strategy. I mean, if we think about the last 60 years, in the 1960s, we started talking about sustainability. Ideas started permeating our minds. Every single economic crisis, every single ecological disaster made the case for it even stronger. But the real meaningful year was 2015. That's when, you know, we saw the twin adoption of the 2015, the 2030 agenda and the Paris Agreement. The former provided this much needed vision I'm talking about, a vision for a brighter future. And the second provided a legally binding framework for all countries to follow to avoid very, very dangerous climate change. So the vision is there. There are millions of good reasons to be positive about it. We've created a sustainability revolution. And by the way, you know, COVID-19 has made the case for it even stronger, because we have understood the relationship between biodiversity loss and the rise of zoonotic pathogens with devastating effects for, you know, human health. So the fate of the planet, the fate of humankind are two sides of the same coin. Filippo, this is clear, but unfortunately the conservative forces are still very strong. They are still there. They're still powerful. Almost no country is meeting its climate ambitions and targets. We keep on, you know, we keep the fossil fuel subsidies, and we keep on subsidizing, you know, an agriculture, an industrial agriculture that damages our soil, which, you know, leads me to think that we haven't reached the tipping point. We haven't enabled the tipping point yet. We are at a fork, you know, with progressive forces pushing on one side, conservative forces pushing on the other side, and you know, I mean, we want to go there, but it's not that obvious. Okay, I love the Forum for the Future because they identify 6 steps for system transformation, for the system transformation we need. And the first one is you need to experience the need for change. We take that box. The second one is we need to diagnose the system. We take that box too. We know how many years we have left to avoid, you know, unreversible climate change, and we know the solutions for everything. The third one is create pioneering practices around the world, and this is where you come in. This is the reason why we have invited you today, because, you know, visionaries like yourself and many others around the world are providing solutions, real life, you know, laboratories, tests that if you guys manage to demonstrate that they work, you know, they can have an impact, and you guys can have an impact well beyond your boundaries. So in this case, well beyond Milan, well beyond Silicon Valley, in this interconnected world. And so, and this could lead finally to the system transformation we are aiming for. New economic thinking is paramount for this transformation. There are new narratives. Many come from women. I'm very happy about that. You know, some call it inclusive capitalism, stakeholder capitalism, progressive capitalism. I'm thinking Joseph Stiglitz, the economies of hope. I'm thinking Mariana Mazzucato, the donut economy. I'm thinking Kate Raworth. They all have a common denominator: less neoliberalism, more solidarity, and more value creation, less value abstraction, less value extraction, less value destruction. So this brings me to my first question to you, which is going to be a little bit abstract. I've got like 2 abstract questions, and then the other 3 are going to be much more concrete. But I want you to tell me about the concept of value, because as Mariana Mazzucato rightly points out, in neoclassical economics, we haven't debated the concept of value for a very, very long time, unlike our ancestors, right? So for us, without even discussing it, value equals price. So all those things which don't have a price kind of don't have a value. Imagine, you know, the outcome of a public school teacher's job, which is so important. But why is this important? Because if we identify that value is created collectively, think of Google without the internet, for instance, we would be able to distribute, you know, the outcomes of that value, perhaps in a fairer, more inclusive way, leading to a type of capitalism that is more inclusive. So that's why I want you to comment on the meaning of value, because I know you're a pioneer on this, because the name of your company, the name of the company you founded and in which you are CEO is PlusValue. So what do you think about the price equals value model, and how should we see value, or at least start debating it? Thank you, Filippo.
Hi, Paule. Thank you very much for this question. Because of my background in philosophy, this is clearly number one, something I really like to discuss it. And also because you pointed correctly, I co-funded with my business partner, Fiorenza, PlusValue, and we put the question about value and what is beyond what we understand value today at the center of our work. You know, I'm not an optimist by character, but strangely enough, in these days, for once, I found myself being hopeful about the future for a very simple reason. And it was the first point in your list. COVID was a wake-up call for the world. For the first time, the world had to stop. Everybody was locked in the house in a way or another one, and thinking about what was happening and realizing there is something fundamentally wrong with our status quo. For the first time, we have achieved some sort of global awareness all together. This is not like, as for instance, climate change, 30 years of conferences, debates, articles, TED talks for a few. This is a global event that has united all of us. And this is a great point to start because it's real, it's part of our life. Now, the question about value is central for our time, and it's really difficult to unpack it because, as Mariana Mazzucato pointed correctly, we have built around it a sort of iron cage. So it's natural for us to think about value as economic values and even prices. And this has also triggered something that I feel a bit uncomfortable with, a real fight, which is also, you know, in the media as well as in the daily life between the value producers and the rentiers, the free riders. And this division is not helping. Certainly there are rentiers. It's certainly that financial services, big business, partially have captured and sometimes squeezed the value creation. But it's not just about between the goodies and the baddies. I think it's more profound. Actually, if it were just about this, we could play, paraphrasing Hannah Arendt, we could say that greed is quite banal. And so it would be just a question of setting up the right incentives to get the finance guys to do the right thing. Okay, this is important. This is not enough. The first step is to rediscover. So, an author I really like, Michael Sandel, he wrote What Money Cannot Buy. Beautiful, simple book, but his point is very simple. A market economy is not a market society. So society expresses a wide variety of values, and they are not all reduced to the economy. And there is a typical example from Israel. A school was bothered by the fact that parents pick up children late at the end of the day. And so they thought to set up a fee, so to incentivize parents to pick up on their children on time. Do you know the result? It was exactly the opposite, because parents stopped thinking about being late as badly behaving, so as a social norm, but got the fee as a service. And so they all arrived late. This is, you know, one of the issues that we need to stop, is to try to solve problem reducing value to an economic market dimension. I want to tell you more. There is another author who has worked a lot on this, Amartya Sen. So ultimately, the work on values is a collective exercise, and it's based on freedom. It's based on our collective choices. It's eminently a democratic exercise. It cannot be fixed by an academic. It cannot be dictated by a government or a corporation. Understanding what is right and doing the right things is something we have to do together. However, it's nice to say, because clearly and this is the point of Amartya Sen, our capabilities, our context determine our choices. And since we live today in a market society where we try to address all the problems from an economic point of view using incentives, we have to make a massive effort to come out of that mindset. But this is the right time. COVID, it's a horrible, it's a tragedy for the life loss, but is at open a window, and we shouldn't miss that.
Thank you, Filippo. Thank you also for your point on avoiding divisions. I think that one is key. I want to ask you about the growth-based paradigm, because today, as you said, global awareness, I mean, COVID-19 brought global awareness to the very next level. And so we are aware that this growth-based paradigm, infinite growth within a finite planet, is bringing environmental damage, social inequalities, political instability. And so we don't want that. I guess we should first define what we want. We want, you know, to keep on growing and growing and growing. We want to build societies, fair, resilient, inclusive societies, innovation and collaboration-driven societies. So we want the latter. However, we need to be able to measure whether we're getting there or not. You know, the simple Anglo-Saxon credo of, you know, what gets measured gets done. But today, the measurement that we've got is GDP, is gross domestic product, which is a little bit, obviously, the price equals value model. So what do we put into GDP? All those services and products which have a price. But, you know, if we want well-being for our society, we know that things like drugs, alcohol, gambling, you know, they all add up to GDP. However, I don't think they add up to our well-being. So, of course, we can't, I mean, we also have to be realistic, Filippo. We can't get rid of GDP, especially in countries like Italy, which pre-COVID-19 started with a debt to GDP equal to 136%. So I don't want to imagine the number at the end of December. We still need that measure, but are there other you know, well-being performance indicators you would add, or virtuous examples you would like to point out, like, such as like New Zealand, for instance? I don't know.
Okay, so first of all, because this question about growth has been asked again and again, especially in the last years, and the apparently immediate and easiest reply is the denial of growth. We stop growing. In Italian, there is an expression, allow me to use it, la decrescita felice, the happy degrowth. I don't even know if I can use it in English. It doesn't compute with the English mind. I think, and I understand the argument about, okay, we stop growing. But take a pause. Number one, this is not fair to countries which are countries, communities, individuals who are not got there, and they aspire to have a better life. We cannot tell them, okay, sorry, we made a big mistake. We are fine. We are rich at the end. And, but you know, you have to be content with what you have. This is impossible, is unjust. It's also, again, divisive towards the people who haven't got much. And I understand when there is a reaction on those, as they call it, the liberals, the green liberals. That's more American. Because a very large chunk of the population hasn't enjoyed the growth, that irresponsible growth of the last 30 years. And now they also see those, the Greens liberals, telling them that we should stop. Actually, their conditions are got worse. Look at with France, not only Italy, France, the US, all the anti-establishment movement. So if we want to be serious about really talking about values and a sustainable development model, we need to gain the trust of this large population. It means, and this is, you know, there are the three steps: stake, trust, hope. They need to know that they have a stake in this new plan. They need to trust that that stake will have a value for them, is not just rhetorics. And they need to hope that their future in that new model will be better. And if we talk about well-being and environmental sustainability, any person, any family will buy into this because they understand what it means, a healthy green environment to live. It doesn't require, again, an academic paper to explain the value of that. However, again, I'm not here to propose the usual macroeconomic recipe, because we have seen, or especially starting from, essentially we have seen this new game or business of I got the recipe to come out of the mess since 2008. And again, TED Talks in infinite, growing exponentially about telling people what to do. I think we are in a new place, we have to turn page, because this is a collective exercise, as I said before. And there are very fundamental challenges that cannot be addressed by anybody individually meaning as an intellectual or as an institution. Number one, the complexity of just a simple GDP measurement of wealth and progress. Complexity that has also been addressed by several economists who understood very clearly is not just about replacing GDP with another measurement, because the alternative is actually compositions of values and dimensions that intertwine, and we don't know exactly about the effects. Certainly, when we bring together economic growth, social development, and environmental preservation, that calculation gets very messy. So we need to take the time to address this complexity and probably use the technology. That's a very good use of technology. Personally, instead of spending billions in trying to go to the moon again and again, we might spend a bit of more money, our investments and technology, to try understanding the value of our Earth. Secondly, it's an experimental approach. So don't demand the task to the UN or the European Union. I believe, and this is where I really thank you to be here. I believe that the entrepreneurs, but the social entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs who look for new solutions by try and error and try and error again, are the ones that with a bottom-up approach will build the alternatives. Certainly working with multilateral organizations, with research bodies. And I'm really concerned about what I see in Europe about this new anti-entrepreneurship spirit. It's in Italy, is everywhere in Western countries. Entrepreneurship is not about exploitation and value extraction. It's really, how could I say, it's really exploring the boundaries of our future. Money is just a component in a means to an end. And again, this is, again, Michael Sandel, let's understand priorities and means to an end and redefine the hierarchy of values. We need money, but just as an instrumental means to the end, which is the well-being and the prosperity of our Earth. And finally, it's a dynamic process. And what I mean by this is, I think that our generation, that is a bit a gloomy note, is somehow limited by the education and set of values where we come from. I am the first one to recognize that I am too individualist, too pragmatic, and too materialist, to understand and to create this future set of values, vision for the future. What we can do is to create the space for the next generation to really explore and build the future.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Filippo, but don't you think, I mean, you and I belong to the same generation, but don't you think that young people are coming with better values? I mean, a car is no longer a status symbol, it's something that gets you from point A to point B and you share it. Do you see that?
I believe that somehow by intuition or thinking people like us, because we are here talking about these things, clearly we have made some steps in the right direction. But, to really rethink our world, you need fresh minds. I mean, social and biological evolution operates through generations, not with the same individual lasting forever.
Yeah.
We need really fresh minds, and this is the beauty with young people. They come with a fresh mind. They're a bit crazy, a bit naive, and sometimes they don't really know what they are doing, but that is necessary. That's a reason also when a society is not able to bring new people in, gets old and unproductive.
Filippo, thank you. Thank you. I could listen to you forever, I think, but there are three words that I will take with me today that you mentioned, that are stake, trust, and hope, that I wrote them down and I will take them with me. So thank you for them. Plato, you are a philosopher, and Plato rightly said, those who tell stories rule society. So I hope that we do. I am going to skip my question number 3, which was about cities and the importance of cities for progress and to reach the 2030 agenda, because obviously, you know, today we've got more than half of the world's population living in cities. We think that by 2030, that's going to be like 2/3 of the world's population. So they are obviously crucial for development and for a better future. But let's skip what I wanted to ask to you about cities, because in a way it's going to be embedded in question number 4, which is this visionary project you are working on, which is Mind. And let me say that I'm so happy it's happening in Milan. I am an acquired Italian with an Italian husband, 2 Italian daughters, and this country has welcomed me in an incredible manner. So, I mean, no, I don't have the Italian passport as you do, but I love this country. I love this is happening in Milan. I think that the vision and all those articles that used to be written by the World Economic Forum and what's going to be the next Silicon Valley, Bangalore or London, I think they're a bit narrow-minded. I think, you know, we can have many of those, and certainly you are working in a visionary, an amazing project that could be a test of how real life in cities could look like in 2, 5, 10 years time. So I'm all ears. All our friends are all ears. We really want to hear about Mind, please.
So thank you for asking about Mind, because it has turned into my life and the life of all my colleagues over the last years. And by the way, contrary to you, I'm a very bad Italian because I left Italy 20 years ago, and somehow I've been brought back to Italy by Mind. But let me explain you this. So, as you know, I've done for many years work with governments, with multilateral organizations, with universities, always working at the very top level. And you think that when you are at the top level, you are going to make a great impact, and your impact at a certain point, you realize, is a piece of paper. And when that amount of pieces of papers gets a bit too high, you start wondering, okay, what's the point?
Yeah.
So at a certain point in my life, I realized, you know, guys, I need to get back on the ground. And the city dimension was probably the right compromise with someone like me who is not too practical, or at least because I've been working, I'm better at complexity rather than to dealing with very concrete challenges. The city is certainly that level of, you know, using the fractal mathematics, where all the complexity of the world is concentrated at the, in a limited space, where you can really work and test new solutions. You can actually see the change. And Mind, so for many years, I've been looking for a project like Mind. I've been looking for a city project that had the ambition to build the foundations of the future city, where all the values we discussed before, that balance between capital, people, and the environment, was at the core of the project. And somehow this is Mind. So Mind also, as an Italian, is a unique project because is the regeneration project of Expo 2015. So a global event when Italy shows itself to the rest of the world at its best. And it was a turning point because Italy was coming out of that very difficult time following the global financial crisis. And Mind somehow became the event that told everybody in Italy and the rest of the world, we are back. And you know, also as an Italian, was born in Italy, it was a moment of personal and collective pride. But Mind is much more than this. Mind, as a Milan Innovation District, is really what I see a gift to the world, because it's a city scale experiment for all the components that can make a sustainable, healthy, dynamic, I would say even happy urban environment. So, number one, it was born because I would about to say for the first time, but certainly that time, the Italian government decided to make a long-term project, gathering very smart people, even from abroad, to look at some fundamental issues like well-being and health in particular, and making strategic investments on a chunk of the city with the idea that could bring together research, education, and industry and become an accelerator of the assets in the territory. Assets, again, in terms of certainly economic assets, but also human, social, environmental assets. So is the best that a government can do. Moreover, bringing along private partners, so recognizing that government needs stakeholders from all the sector is not just an lonely act, but is a teamwork.
And sorry to interrupt, but demonstrated that governments can have, a visionary approach, a strategic approach, can have a mission-oriented approach. Was it, sorry to interrupt you, Filippo, was that the Renzi government or it was Letta?
It was the Renzi government because it started, there were a lot of changes in those times. Expo 2015 happened. There was no legacy project, contrary to, like, for instance, Olympics in games in London. So in that case, there was none. The government worked hard at the last minute to come up with a legacy project, and probably Italians give the best when they are under pressure. And I'm not going to name the people, but they named a lot of, they involved several people, and somehow we were also involved in that process. And the first project that was launched was the Human Technopole. So a research center for genomics, And if you think now about COVID hitting Milan, having a brand new infrastructure for research and innovation in health sciences as revealed to be a visionary and brave choice that was also contested. And then we work as PlusValue to somehow design, first of all, actually understanding and then design the innovation ecosystem. And I must confess that afterwards we realized how right was that choice, because of the human capital that in the field of life sciences you have both in research and in the industry, making the territory one of the really the hotspots in the world. So it was a choice really thought through and strategic. And this is, for the life sciences. But mind is something more. It's a science and technology park embedded in the city. It's not one of the many science and technology park secluded like Fort Knox, far from the city. This is inside the city. So it's like bringing research and innovation at the core of the city, opening it to everybody. So it becomes a collective innovation experiment in which everybody is invited to be part of, to contribute and make the city of the future. Just think about the value in terms of education for new generations. Having children from primary school to be exposed to what it means research in genomics, something that otherwise they would never know. But also, since is the innovation city in the city, all the components are innovative. It means that the transport, like no cars, only public transport, only electric, this is the transport of the future. Energy, the new renewable energy sources. It means that you have a real live lab participated by everybody in the present, but projected to the future. This is the beauty, the strength, and the potential of this project. And today I'm happy to say it's happening in a city that I'm sure will promptly recover from COVID-19, also because there are projects like mine.
That's amazing, Filippo. When are we gonna see it live?
So, yesterday, the concession was signed. It means that from tomorrow, the actual project will start, because it's a public-private partnership. And so Lend-Lease, the private developer, it's an Australian urban developer company operating globally, yesterday took the lead from the public authorities, government, the city council and the region, and they really started the project lasting 99 years. Think about the length. I mean, more you look into mine, the more you realize is unlikely a project like this in Italy by what we assume Italy is, but probably it tells you the potential of the country and that in Italy it's possible. And so it's ultimately a message of hope for all the Italians.
Thank you. You know what? I think we need to have a second session in a few months' time about Mind with you, like part number 2. I would I would listen to you forever about this, and I thank you for it, because sustainability advocates and visionaries and solution providers like yourself have created this sustainability revolution, whereby, you know, we are kind of deconstructing the old dichotomy whereby the common good was the sole responsibility of governments and politics and NGOs, and you know, the role of companies was reduced to providing profits for their shareholders. No, so it's really great to see. I mean, I want to tell our friends who are listening to us that they can ask questions, and I will be looking at the chat very, very shortly. I have 2 more questions, but I'm gonna reduce them to 1, because, you know, we are always very respectful and very mindful of the timing. All our friends are very busy. So my question is about impact investing. We know today there are about 500 billion. I mean, don't focus on the number. This is the number that the gene gives. I mean, we know it's a drop in the ocean compared to, you know, the $200 trillion available in capital markets. So within finance, impact investing is still small. My question to you is that, do you think it's got the potential to become really mainstream, a powerful force for good, or by its nature is going to remain small? I don't know. I'm thinking Sir Ronald Cohen, who says the 19th century was the century of returns. We didn't care about risk, you know, as long as the project was, you know, profitable, we were in. In the 20th century, however, we learned that depending on the risk you take, you know, you are, I mean, you are willing to take a certain type of risk or not, and then expect different results accordingly. Ronald Cohen says, okay, it was a bit delayed by the 2008-2009 crisis, but this is going to be the century of the 3 dimensions: risk, return, and impact. So I hope so, and I want your view on it, because you've been working on impact investing way before it became famous. And last but not least, please, Filippo, tell us about your urban living impact investing fund. We are really, really interested, because it's the first of its kind. I mean, it's the first time I hear about an impact investing fund entirely dedicated to improving urban lives and urban living. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Paula. I've been talking about impact investing for a very long time, but as you presented, somehow it's easy to make this comparison. Mind is for the future of cities and urban development, as impact investing is for financial markets. And that's the reason why I'm into this. I'm not a financier. I haven't background in banking, but we live in a capitalist society. The only way to lead the transformation is to, as you say in Italian, I don't know if you can translate it in English, you have to take the bull from the horns. And so we need to deal with finance and provide alternatives. And impact investing is that alternative. It's like, you know, being at the head of the Titanic and move its course of a few centimeters. If we do it in time, we won't crash against the iceberg, and we will save millions of lives. And actually, we might reach the harbor. Impact investing for me, it's this. It means, you know, it's not a sacrifice, a self-sacrifice, because investors, individual savers, families, they need to, they expect a return, a fair return, but at the same time, this is balanced with a proper consideration over the social and the environmental impact. It's an alignment within the individual interest and the public interest, which is, by the way, in the long run, also the interest of everybody. And we set up an impact investing fund, a bit again, like as we are entrepreneurs, it was something to be done. And so we wanted to do it, but we wanted to do it, like mine, at the large scale, because only offering large opportunities, we become credible to the financial markets. And we launched this initiative with an experienced private equity investors, Alberto Craici, Berie Capital. And it was really a match between impact and finance, facilitated by Marco Morganti, that everybody knows because he's the CEO of Banca Prossima, so the bank of the third sector, Banca Intesa. So it's a nice story. But the real turning point was at the end of last year, when we signed a partnership with Lendlease, and we essentially brought some components that now make our impact investing fund something unique. Number one, we have brought on board a very large mainstream global player that make the proposal very credible. And at the same time, with Lendlease, we brought the urban regeneration project, and in particular Mind. So our proposal is about to leverage two dimensions in the project like Mind: the innovation ecosystem and the urban regeneration combined. The innovation ecosystem, because an innovation ecosystem like Mind attracts and incubates the new solution for urban living. As I explained before, it's the experiment for the city of the future. These days it means also COVID-proof. So it's not a nice to have, it's a must for, and not just for Mind or Milan, is a must for everybody. And so we will test, and so we will invest in the new solutions that are necessary for everybody. But at the same time, urban regeneration has another interesting effect, because it somehow is an economy in steroids, where everything has to be built and developed very quickly. When you make an investment in urban regeneration, there is a speed and acceleration effect that also for financial guys makes a very sensible proposal. And finally, working with Lendlease, it means that we also have a channel to distribute the successful solution in which we have invested and reach the great cities in the world very quickly, from New York to Singapore to Sydney. So we can scale and replicate the good businesses as probably has never been done before. And this is what excites me, because I don't want to do something which is just nice for me and my friends and my family. We want to do this because we want to be like a tsunami of good and show that it can be done. It's not just a nice to have. It can really an alternative of our world.
I love the tsunami of good thing. In which type of companies are you going to invest, Filippo? Are you going to invest in green innovation, social innovation, tech innovation, like concretely?
So when you look at the new solution for urban living, it means that you have to address the convergence of tech innovation, social innovation, and green innovation, and really leverage the complexity and the interrelations. Certainly, the need in this moment is in what is called the social infrastructures. So the services like health, education, training, job inclusion, housing, which are fundamental for, on one side, the social contract, but also for a thriving, innovative economy. And we need a very rigorous way to measure impact, something we have developed with PlusValue, because our ambition, again, is to make impact a component of the strategy of every business, and not a cost, an element of their strategy. So how to be successful. So it has to be changed completely how we see also this dimension in a business. Because investors, because public authorities, because clients want it.
Filippo, thank you so much. I mean, the timing is perfect. You know, I think we should definitely have a follow-up session on this, both on the Urban Impact Investing Fund and on mine. We can't wait to be there and perhaps go all together one day there with you. This is really important, and I thank you very much for your time, because, you know, we are often told that our actions matter too little, that, you know, sustainability challenges are, as we said, very complex, very large, very intertwined, and that we are simply a small drop in the ocean, right? And it might be true, but what is an ocean but a sum of drops? You know, what is government, what is society, what is business, but different declinations of groups of the exact same drops. So you are a very important drop. You are a leading drop. I'm sure, like, it is the first time they call you drop in your life, or perhaps not, but I wish you very, very good luck, really, with all my heart in both endeavors. We will be following you. And once again, thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Tom, as always, for all the great work we are doing together with the British Chamber of Commerce for Italy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Filippo. Thank you, Paule. A huge applause to both of you.
Guys, if you can stay one more minute. Sorry, there is a question. There is a question, Filippo. Do you have 1 minute? I thought there were no questions. There is, like, thank you, wonderful, lots of generous comments in the chat. But there is one that says, from Giulio Trafficante, Guido, my friend Guido Trafficante, who says, very interesting talk. What do you think about unconventional monetary policies? Will they foster investments you focus on? This is what von der Leyen is aiming for, Guido. We really hope so, but it seems that Europe, I mean, I let you reply to that, Filippo, but it seems that in Europe, at least, we're getting in the right direction.
Unconventional is my adjective, so but it might take me a bit too far. I want to mention something again, because I really believe in new generations, even if sometimes they say silly things, but it doesn't matter. We need them to lead the change. So there is a group called, I don't remember anymore, but it's a group of students. They created a think tank, and now they are about publishing a book said, "We tell you how." I love that. So I've done a bit of ghostwriting and advising for them. So I will confess what I suggested them, because clearly they are all thinking about startups and new businesses and get their hands dirty. So I proposed some the boogeyman, which is the patrimoniale, for a patrimoniale that can be discounted if the taxpayers invest the equivalent in new businesses for innovation. Now, that might look absurd. It's not, because, for instance, you know, in the UK there is ICE, which is a investment scheme with tax benefits that has essentially channeled an enormous amount of billions of private capital into innovation in the UK. Now, it worked very well with technological innovation. We need this kind of scheme that brings together the public and the private to channel the wealth that in Italy is also in the hands of private households, to innovation, but innovation which is also sustainable and social. There is a role for government in shaping the market. There is a role in government in making the markets. And this is where I really see the role of institutions. And I would like the European Union, the Italian government, to be braver in supporting business which is good for society.
Thank you, Filippo. And I really think that another very meaningful drop in that direction is Enrico Giovannini and the great work he's doing for the Italian government in Colaus think tank with Mariana Mazzucato. There is a very, very last question for you, and then we leave you. We know you're very busy, but Paula Caburlotto is asking you, in this environment, do you believe communities have a special role in supporting societies, considering that in communities, everyone has a stake in everyone else's well-being? Very nice question.
The community is the spirit. So the very first project I tried to do in terms of matching finance, community, and new businesses was in Treviso, with the new hospital of Treviso, and something I want to try again with a new version of what you might call project bonds, but project bonds with a social purpose. So I can see communities pooling resources to invest in infrastructures that are, Italians, they call it generative, transformational, enabling for the community and the economy. Now, those financial tools in Italy, there are some serious issues with developing those social bonds which are developed in Italy, and nothing to do with what I'm thinking about. But Italy is made of communities, and the trust, the solidarity, and the collective action happens in the communities. We need to find a way, again, to leverage that potential at scale as communities of communities. It's a financial question in terms of financial tools. It's also a political question. I might be able to address the first one, certainly not the second one for the moment.
Grazie, thank you very much. It was very, very thought-provoking, Filippo. Infinite thanks.
Thank you, all of you, for taking your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Filippo. Thank you, Paule. This has been so interesting. We've gone at least 10 minutes over. We need to do a follow-up session on this. This is a topic that we were going to be hitting a lot in the next year, and I know a lot in the future. Oscar Wilde it was who said, a man who knows the price of everything but the value of nothing. Well, Filippo, you're certainly one of the people who know the value of a lot, very much indeed. And I love what you said about the Mind Project, about it making you proud of Italy, and showing the true potential of the country. And that's something else that we're very keen on showing, is how much potential Italy has, how much good there is, and actually taking away some of the misconceptions and bad perceptions about Italy. Thank you so much. I just want to leave you with a couple of notices. We will have next week, an aperitivo on the 9th of June at 6 p.m. If you're available to join that via Zoom, it's just an easy, relaxed aperitivo hosted by Vicky and Cristiano. You can join, come and have a drink, have a discussion, and that should be fun. And our annual general meeting on the 25th of June will be joined by Adam Marshall, the Director General of our umbrella organization, the British Chambers of Commerce, talking about the future of trade in COVID, also in the context of Brexit, and we'll be talking more about sustainability and how to build back better. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you again to Filippo and to Paule very much indeed.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.